Yeah, I didn't know that you were on the outs with
Kelsey.
I wasn't. You know what? Sorry, how far do I want to go? I wasn't.
Go all the way.
No. But I wasn't on the outs.
Kelsey Grammer we're talking about.
I know.
Frasier.
Okay, so...
No, I'm telling the listeners.
Oh, yeah. Kelsey, yes, we had this conversation on air in our podcast, on whatever.
For 3 decades, one of television's most enduring mysteries has lingered in the shadows of Hollywood's golden age sitcoms. 2 actors who brought joy to millions of viewers through their iconic roles on the legendary show Cheers maintained a silence so profound it spanned an entire generation. Kelsey Grammer and Ted Danson, whose on-screen chemistry as Dr. Frasier Crane and Sam Malone respectively captivated audiences for years, harbored a rift that began with a seemingly simple conversation but escalated into a complete breakdown of their friendship. The golden years of Cheers and rising tensions. When Kelsey Grammer joined the cast of Cheers in Season 3 as the psychiatrist Dr. Frasier Crane, few could have predicted this character would become one of television's most beloved figures. Originally intended as a temporary plot device to further the relationship between Sam Malone and Diane Chambers, Grammer's portrayal of the erudite, wine-loving psychiatrist quickly won over audiences and producers alike. His natural ability to make even the most mundane dialogue amusing secured his position as a series regular by Season 5. The show itself was a phenomenon, transforming from a ratings disaster in its first season, finishing dead last at 77th place out of 77 shows, to become one of America's most cherished television programs. Ted Danson, who played the charming former baseball player turned bartender Sam Malone, had been the steady anchor of the series since its inception in 1982. His portrayal of the recovering alcoholic and notorious womanizer earned him critical acclaim and multiple Emmy nominations. Behind the scenes, however, the pressures of maintaining a hit television series were taking their toll on the cast. The demanding schedule of weekly production, combined with the intense scrutiny that comes with success, created an environment where personal struggles could quickly affect professional relationships. For Grammer, who had already endured significant personal tragedies, including the murder of his father and sister, the stress of fame and fortune proved a dangerous combination. During this period, cast members began to notice changes in Grammer's behavior and reliability on set. Writer Dan O'Shannon later described witnessing Grammer's transformation between action and cut, noting how he would ooze into the studio, his life all out of sorts, but then snap into Frasier and expound in this very erudite dialogue and be pitch perfect. This professional dedication masked a growing personal crisis that eventually impacted his relationships with his co-stars, particularly Ted Danson. The confrontation that changed everything. The incident that defined the next 3 decades of Grammer and Danson's relationship occurred during what would have been a routine day on the Cheers set. According to Grammer's recent revelations to the New York Post, the confrontation was far less dramatic than many had speculated. Quote, "It got a little blown out of proportion. There really wasn't an argument," Grammer explained. The reality was both simpler and more complex than a typical Hollywood feud. Ted Danson, concerned about the show's production and its co-stars' reliability, approached Grammer with a straightforward but pointed observation. Quote, "Ted had just come up and said, 'I'm kind of mad at you that sometimes you don't show up ready to go,'" Grammer recalled. The actor's response was equally direct, and I said, "Okay, I respect that." And that actually was sort of it. What made this brief exchange so significant was the context in which it occurred. Grammer was battling severe personal demons during this period, struggling with what he described as, quote, "a lot of self-doubt, self-loathing, honestly." The actor was drinking heavily and using cocaine, addictions that were affecting his professional performance and personal relationships. It was a time when Grammer was frequently arriving on set unprepared, a situation that was becoming increasingly problematic for a show that depended on precise timing and ensemble chemistry. Danson's approach to addressing the issue reflected his position as the show's lead actor and his sense of responsibility for maintaining professional standards. However, the manner in which he delivered his concerns may have been more confrontational than he intended. In a later podcast appearance, Danson recalled going to Grammer's dressing room and expressing his frustration more forcefully, saying, quote, "I've told you how much I love you, but I haven't expressed how incredibly angry I am with you. I'm really upset, and I felt it was important to say that, to be honest." The conversation ended without resolution, and what both actors thought might be a momentary professional disagreement began to calcify into something more permanent. Grammer believed they had cleared the air, while Danson felt the need to distance himself for what he perceived as a potentially problematic situation. Neither actor fully understood the other's perspective, and their failure to follow up on the conversation would have consequences that neither could have anticipated. Behind the scenes.
Okay, Kelsey, all of this Kelsey has written books about and talked about in the press about, so I'm not revealing anything, but he was under the influence of alcohol and drugs during some of the years of shooting.
The period surrounding Grammer and Danson's falling out was marked by one of the darkest chapters in the Frasier star's life. His substance abuse problems had escalated to the point where they were affecting not only his personal well-being, but also the production of one of television's most popular shows. Cast members and producers found themselves in the difficult position of trying to help a colleague while maintaining the show's demanding schedule and high standards. The situation became so serious that both the Cheers and later Frasier casts staged interventions to help Grammer overcome his addiction to drugs and alcohol. John Mahoney, who later played Grammer's father on Frasier, described the intervention as, quote, "the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because basically it's kicking a dead horse. It's going to someone's house who you love, who's down, and just beating him down even further for his own good." The intervention was a terrifying experience for all involved, with cast member Perry Gilpin recalling being, quote, "afraid at how Grammer would respond." The interventions and Danson's confrontation were part of a larger pattern of concern among the cast about Grammer's behavior. Co-star Bebe Neuwirth and writer Ken Levine cited delays with rehearsals and filming due to his erratic behavior. The addiction was affecting every aspect of production, creating tension among cast members trying to maintain the show's quality while dealing with their colleagues' personal struggles. The breaking point came in September 1996 when Grammer crashed his Dodge Viper sports car while intoxicated. The accident served as what Grammer later described as a message from God to stop drinking. He subsequently checked himself into the Betty Ford Center for 30 days, forcing Frasier into an unscheduled production hiatus. The crash and subsequent rehabilitation marked a turning point in Grammer's life, but by then, the damage to his relationship with Danson had already been done. During this tumultuous period, the professional relationship between Grammer and Danson continued to deteriorate. What had started as a concern about work performance evolved into a complete breakdown of communication. The long silence and recent reconciliation. For 30 years following their initial confrontation, Kelsey Grammer and Ted Danson maintained a professional distance that bordered on complete estrangement. While they would occasionally encounter each other at industry events, their interactions were minimal and superficial. This silence was particularly notable given their shared history and the success of the characters they had created together. Danson even admitted that while Grammer had invited him to appear on Frasier multiple times over the years, he often declined because he was uncertain about how to portray his character Sam Malone at an older age. The walls began to come down on October 2024 when Grammer appeared as a guest on Danson's podcast, Where Everybody Knows Your Name, which he co-hosts with fellow Cheers actor Woody Harrelson. During this emotionally charged reunion, Danson took the initiative to address their long-standing rift directly. Quote, "I feel like I got stuck a little bit with you during the Cheers years," Danson admitted to his former co-star. "I have a memory of getting angry at you once, and it's stuck in both of our memories, but I feel like I missed out on the last 30 years of Kelsey Grammer." The apology that followed was heartfelt and long overdue. Quote, "I feel like it's my bad, my doing, and I almost feel like apologizing to you," Danson continued. "No, I don't feel like I apologize to you and me that I sat back and didn't, and I really do apologize." Grammer's response was equally gracious, accepting the apology with characteristic eloquence. Quote, "My love for you has always been easy as the day, as easy as the sunrise."
Cheers will not come back. I mean, Jimmy Burrows has always said, he said, no, that bar doesn't exist anymore. So, okay, it's not there. Ted and I might actually visit something together. We've been talking about a couple of ideas, maybe on Frasier. We don't know, but there's certainly still some fields to be mined there, in terms of that relationship. And as long as it's still a relevant relationship, it would still be relevant for the show. Ted and Frasier got along pretty well and, discovered some things together about life, and they could still do that.
I love that. So maybe his Cheers character will end up.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think because, Frasier's back in Boston. So,
Now it's time to hear from you. What lessons can we learn from their experience? And who is your favorite Cheers character? Let us know in the comments section below.